What's going on, folks, and welcome to another episode of CM Live. I'm Colion Noir, and our first guest is Stacy Washington, a conservative commentator known as Stacy on the Right, who ran into some backlash after she wrote about the NRA annual meetings. Go figure, right? So what's going on, Stacy? Apparently, you've been dealing with some issues.
Paid shill. I'm just still waiting to get paid, though, because I've been accused of being a paid representative and spokesperson and advocate for not only the gun industry, but also the National Rifle Association. And while I have been on, just so many programs, I've guest hosted for Cam & Company, I've been on your show numerous times, and I'm grateful for all of it. I've not been compensated. So I've never complained about that because as a pundit, I don't expect someone to send me a check every time I appear on their show. Mm-hmm. But apparently me writing about the NRA not being the same as ISIS, somehow that counts as professional advocacy. And that represented an ethical violation on my part for non-disclosure. And I was summarily suspended for writing about how media needs to take more notice of their bias and stop permitting statements like NRA members and NRA and gun owners are like ISIS. That's a statement that should be allowed to stand on its own. And I disagree. I feel like that statement is spurious. It cannot be validated. You can't find evidence to support that NRA members have tossed people off buildings, set them on fire, beheaded them, or any of the kinds of terroristic activities that ISIS engages in. And so I wrote about that. And it's shocking. It was an opinion column. I gave my opinion, and I got suspended.
Not only was it an opinion column, you were, am I wrong or right or wrong, you were noted as the conservative voice on that opinion column.
Yeah, they gave me a page called Other Views. So that's where my column appeared. But
it was like journalistic segregation on the political scheme.
It was, but I also sometimes when I go by the paper so I could see my little head, the little box picture of my head, I would pick it up, and who would be underneath on the second half? George Will or Charles Krauthammer. So I'm like, look at my head is on the same page as Charles Krauthammer's head. So I was just excited to be on the conservative side in the newspaper in a print paper. And I don't understand what happened. I literally was sitting on the stairs, resting my feet, showing off my cowgirl boots. I look at my email and it's like, you're suspended. I'm like, what?
You know what's interesting? Not interesting. I know the answer, but I wonder what would happen if it was the inverse. Let's say you wrote an article aligning yourself with the ideas of that moronic article comparing the NRA to ISIS. And let's say you were a member of, Mothers Demand Action.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if you would have gotten suspended then.
I'm saying no. Yes and no.
I'd put my life on it that you wouldn't be suspended.
Yeah, I'd put a couple of paychecks on it. Paychecks I haven't received because I'm not an affiliate of the NRA. You see where I'm going with this. Look, I don't mind them questioning my motives, but I think it's a little redundant in that I am one of the most out there people when it comes to my political beliefs. Not only do I have a Christian-based talk show that runs every day for an hour, syndicated to a bunch of different states. I'm always posting scripture, pictures of guns, pictures of puppies, pictures of babies, pictures of me with all of those items. You can't know my online social media and even for 1 second think that I don't support the NRA and the Second Amendment, law enforcement, gun owners, military. I'm pretty out there. So and they wrote 2 articles about it. So, Colion, we're talking about 2 articles in the Post-Dispatch written by one of their reporters about me taking part in a documentary with the NRA last fall. So how could people not know? How did they not know?
I think I don't really know where we are right now as a society, largely because we are seeing it. God, the level of stupidity is even becoming more blatant, and it's at a point now where they're not even worried about really hiding their bias, right? Which is odd because they suspended you because they felt you were being biased while engaging in bias. I don't understand how that you can make that work in your mind, but I guess when you are talking about people who have a very conscious mental deficiency, you tend to kind of do things like that. Now, politically, from a from a pro-gun, anti-gun standpoint, right? These are the same people who are always talking about, why don't we have a reasonable discussion about this? Why don't we come in the middle? Why don't we come together and talk about this like decent, civilized individuals? But then here they are firing over an article that aligns an organization that's in place to defend a constitutional right and aligning an organization that does that to a terrorist organization that beheads people on national television. How do you not see the contradiction in that? I just don't understand how we like, and then on top of that, we have people who either are silent about it or then applaud the very act of that conscience. Like it boggles my mind, and I'm like, where are we at this point in time that we just allow things like this to happen?
Well, I don't know where we are. One of the things I said in the piece, Colion, was that we need an introspective look in newsrooms around the country. And remember, I start the piece off with this, it's a statement about the number of people in newsrooms in America who actually claim a Republican Party affiliation. And that number in 2013 was 7%. Now, 28% of the people polled claimed no political affiliation, but I was talking about the ones who claimed Republican political affiliation. So it's either Republican or Democrat or anything else. You divide those numbers off. You got 7% for Republican, 93% for everybody else. And I feel like that is a reflection of the story. You covered it. The Mizzou professor emeritus of the J School says that ISIS and NRA members are akin to each other in their tactics. That got through the editorial process as a Columbia Missourian and made it into the paper. I wrote about it because I felt like it was a travesty for them to make those kinds of statements about law-abiding gun owners who've never, ever committed a crime. Statistics also show that if you are a concealed carry certified gun owner, you have less likelihood of committing a crime than a police officer. Yeah. So, but these are not things that are widely discussed. And so I'm going through this in the column, not to rile people up, but to sound the alarm bell. Guys, we have a real problem in newsrooms across this country. Only one viewpoint is represented. And for that call for introspection, they said, you're a gun shill. You're an NRA shill. You got to go. We got to suspend you. And I'll tell you what, I'm pretty patient. I'm pretty long suffering. I don't get worked up easily. And when I read that and I went back and forth with him in email and he started insulting me, well, you're going to spin this however you want. Todd Robertson, the opinion editor, he's my boss over there, up until Saturday night. Yeah. I got to a place where I felt like this isn't someone I can ever work with again, because he just basically told me that no matter what he says about the suspension, I'm going to use it and spin it, which is lying, to my advantage. And he also said that I made wild exaggerations in the column because I said that the NRA was founded and later became a civil rights organization that helped blacks defend themselves against the KKK.
How's that spinning when how's that spinning when that's truth though?
It's the truth. I don't know how that's spinning, but I felt at that moment that I needed to terminate the relationship. And so midnight that night, I did.
So then how does, in his mind, I don't know if this is something you converse with him about, but in his mind, how does an impartial article addressing the article that you were addressing, how does that look and sound?
He didn't really say. He said that I should have disclosed in the footer or in one of those special boxes below. I should have told him, look, I go on the TV, on NRATV, I go on the radio. I attend the NRA meetings. I'm at the NRA meetings right now.
What does that have to do with the fact that what you are saying is true, though?
Nothing.
Like I don't understand. If I work for an organization that's called The Sky is Blue, and they pay me to talk about the fact that the sky is blue, and then I write an article in contrast to somebody else who says that the sky is black, I don't understand why it even matters that I didn't acknowledge the fact that I was working for an organization that's called The Sky is Blue, when in fact the sky is blue, and that's what I reported in my article. I don't understand. I can understand if there was an inherent dishonest perspective that you presented in your article, but above and beyond that, I don't see how he made that conclusion. So my only logical conclusion that I can make is that he is inherently anti-gun. He didn't like the fact that you took a pro-gun stance, and therefore he thought he found an angle in which to get rid of your voice.
I think that your assessment is spot on. And I just want to warn you, because your common sense meter is getting up a little high for the Post-Dispatch and Todd Robertson. So it's fantastic for your show, but that kind of common sense is clearly not respected over there. And so the same conclusion that you just came to, the same thing has been emailed to me over and over and over again. You know how you do a show, and it's a good show, but you don't get a lot of email. But then you'll do a show, and you're like, you ring the bell for a lot of people. They're like, wow, I feel that. You get email on it. That's what's happened over the course of this past week. I have gotten a few haters who said, well, your arrogance has gotten you suspended from the Post-Dispatch. I'm like, okay, it wasn't arrogance that got me suspended. It was telling the truth. I'm more concerned that with the dwindling subscriber base, and I mentioned that, and I think that was part of why they were so angry, because I'm writing for a paper with a dwindling subscriber base, calling out another paper with a dwindling subscriber base.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, I was telling the truth. How do you stop that? By reporting from a good perspective. So by neutralizing your reporting, by balancing your opinion page, by admitting, look, we love being progressives, but we also need to respect the fact that half this country are not progressives, and we need to reflect that, or we're going to continue to see our numbers dwindle. They've laid off 10 people at the Post-Dispatch. They found 10 people who weren't union and laid them off. They gave them early severance or little exit packages. And they're going to have to do that again if their subscriber base drops again. And I can tell you, I have a few, I'd say almost 200 emails about this since I made the announcement.
Yeah.
And most of them are, I'm canceling my subscription. This is the last straw. Some of them say, oh, I dumped that rag years ago. Well, you know, smart, they saw ahead. But the point is that they're losing. They're on the losing end of this. And that's not exactly what I wanted. If you read the piece, I'm not calling for that. I'm calling for them to balance themselves so that their paper can survive, because I believe there's a place, it's a valuable place that we need a paper in St. Louis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some more slanted and actually biased opinion pieces that have been written as of late, especially with respect to the NRA.
Yeah.